So to refurbish this Safeware lock system using the components from the Safeware refurb kit, we begin by removing the old hardware, the central case and the top and bottom hook cases. On this mechanism, they're all affixed using T20 Torx screws. There are 4 T20 Torx screws that fix the central case onto the mechanism. We'll begin by removing those. So with those screws removed, it's worth noting that they are of varying lengths. The top and bottom screw are longer and the 2 central screws are shorter. It's important to remember that when we come to reassembly. With all the screws removed, lift the lock mechanism clear of the gearbox and we can move on to removing our top remote locking point. So this is a hook case, again 2 T20 Torx screws. And we'll start by removing the top one first. And the reason for that is once we've removed that, this small section can be swung clear. This little section here with this T connection, it will be retained by the roller. And we then remove our bottom fixing. At this point we can remove the hook case, and as we do so just be careful because this section of drive rod is retained by the roller and we don't want that spinning around. Keep that in position and we'll move on to our bottom lock case, the bottom hook case. Again, there's a small section in here, so we'll start with the furthest end, which will be the bottom of the mechanism. All of these Torx screws for these hook cases are of equal length. Swing that section around clear. Again, all of the sections of drive rod on the back are all retained by the rollers, so they shouldn't fall off. Move those clear. And we're now beginning to reassemble the lock with the items from the refurb kit. So when it comes to the components in this kit, there is a central gearbox, which is a latch and downward hook type. This is a double spindle gearbox on 92/62 centres. And there is a top hook case, which is an upwards hook, and a bottom hook case, which is a downwards hook. And these operate in opposite directions. The drive rods on the back of this mechanism work in opposite directions. There are extensions for chute bolts, small chute bolt extensions. So if you are buying chute bolts for this mechanism, they are to operate in opposite directions. So you would need the same operation chute bolt for each end of the mechanism. We can now begin to reassemble our lock using these components from the refurb kit. So we can now begin to reassemble our lock mechanism starting from the central gearbox. There are 4 T20 Torx screws that must be used here, and we must remember that the middle 2 are the shorter screws. So of all the screws, they're all equal length besides 2 screws that are our central 2 fixings for our gearbox. And the easiest way to start, as usual, is with the central case, laying it on its back so that it's facing upwards. And we're going to lay the faceplate over the top, and the returns, these 90-degree backwards returns on the connecting rods, are going to locate the top one into this channel, which is here. We're looking for this into this channel. And the bottom one is a more conventional notch that's out of the operating plate on the back. So there's a clear notch below the hook, and that's going to sit in there. So we lay it over the top one in that channel. Get that sitting over that latch, and then the bottom one in that notch. And once that's sitting on flat, we'll start with our central screws, which are our smaller 2. Smaller screw there. So immediately above and immediately below the latch is where these 2 smaller screws go. And then our top and bottom screws as well. Again, remembering these are cast alloy threads, so we don't want to over tighten anything. And our bottom screw. Once those are all in position, our gearbox is fixed, and we can move on to our top hook case. So we can now start with our top hook case. So our top hook case on this mechanism is a downward facing hook, and there is this little section of rod on the back which drives this roller to be mindful of. So we can see our notches on our operating plates, lower notches very far to the bottom of the lock case in the unlock position, and the upper notch sits just above the hook. Position that roughly near our faceplate, sit our faceplate over the top, and we're looking to locate our T-sections into those notches. And once they're sitting in position, clamp them down with our screws. All of the screws we have left at this point will be of equal length, they're all the same screw. So once our 2 screws are in, we can move on to our bottom hook case, our bottom lock point. So our bottom hook case, this one is an upwards hook. So position it in the unlock position with the hook in the upwards configuration. And as we said, these work in opposites, these drive rods. And sit your faceplate over the top. Again, you have your T section sitting in these notches and the T section at the bottom of the mechanism sitting in these notches. Don't forget about this little piece to drive this roller, or you'll have no compression roller at the bottom of the mechanism. Once they're both sitting in position, take your last two screws, and you tap that one down. And you have rebuilt the lock mechanism using the components from the refurb kit and have a refurbished Safeware lock mechanism.